alive. I don't know how much of my holding my tone we got there, but welcome to the Metal Lab, guys. It's Monday, our favorite day of the week, right?
You bet.
This week joined by different cameras this time, Mike.
Hello.
And Tom.
Hello.
Labeled the absolute opposite at the bottom of my screen, so it should be fun for me on my camera control.
Mike didn't want to be in his bedroom for some reason.
Never forget, Married with Clicks is free, brought to you by hcrealms.com. Check their shop at realmsgaming.com. Use the coupon code MARRIED to get 10% off of your purchase, and to further support our store our channel as well. And we have more ways for you guys to support the channel we'll talk about later at the end of the episode. But we got a big episode ahead of us, and big news that happened actually today. The watch list has been solved today. We got our answers, and we have some previews to go through. So we'll speed through the previews first, then we'll talk about the watch list, and then we'll talk about our cool Nightwing teams that we've all come up with.
Woo!
And we'll also bring up any games we might have played throughout the week or weekend, as it were. All right, so I am going to start the screen share now and get rid of my face, which is terrible for people to look at, and start with I want to get last week's preview started. Now, last week we got a chance to look at what's his name, Union Jack, and then since then we've been treated with 5 previews, 3 of which are favorite characters of mine. We're gonna stick to what we've been doing with the thumbs up, thumbs down. It's been working well for us lately. So we're starting with Iron Fist. Now this is the first 3 are Age of Ultron figures, the second 2 are Shield. So first 3 we're going to separate sealed and not sealed, and then the next 2 we'll just talk about as a whole for both. So Iron Fist has a trait. When Iron Fist is targeted with a close combat attack, modifies defense value by +1. He's got a special movement power. He can use Leap Climb. When Iron Fist resolves a move action and is moved 4 squares or less, he can make a close combat action as a free action. He's got the Avengers, Heroes for Hire, Kunlun, Martial Artist, and Mystical keywords. Everything else on dial is what you see. He is not indomitable, no special symbols of any kind. And he's got the Spider-Man team ability, which makes him a wild card. So we're going to start with Mike. Mike, what do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down of this Iron Fist and Sealed?
Yeah, in sealed, yeah.
And what about Constructed?
Nope.
No. Yeah. About the same. Tom, your thoughts?
I give thumbs up to both.
Thumbs up to both Sealed and Constructed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it thumbs up to Sealed and thumbs halfway on Constructed. Halfway because I'm going to play him because I'm a big fan of the classic Heroes for Hire. It's going to be a weakness of mine. But we were very spoiled with Fear itself. So, yeah, we all remember
the Kunlun keyword.
Right now it'll be Justice Iron Fist. What was his name? Lee Kung the Thunderer, and the 2 different one of the Hope Summers. Hope Summers from AVX. So not a big collection to start, but it's a keyword that's starting to pick up. So next, his partner in crime, if you will, Luke Cage. The other half of the classic Heroes for Hire holds a soft spot in my heart, and I'm really looking forward to his TV show. Now, this Luke Cage comes with the Mighty Avengers trait, which we saw in the Blue Marvel previously. So increase Luke Cage's defense by 1 for each other friendly character within 4 squares that can use this trait. So right now it'll be Luke Cage and the Blue Marvel, which is then we move over to his movement power. Luke Cage can use Ignores Hindering and Breaks Through Blocking when moving. When Luke Cage resolves a move action and has moved 4 squares or less, he can make a close combat attack as a free action. Everything else is colored on the dial, such powers as Invincible, Close Combat Expert, Leadership, and some Battle Fury. He is indomitable, and he does come with the Spider-Man wildcard team ability. So, Tom, you get first dibs on this one. Thumbs up, Sealed, and Constructed.
Thumbs up to both. I think they're both great.
Absolutely. Mike, your thoughts?
Thumbs up to Sealed. I like that Invincible and the Leadership. But thumbs halfway to down for Constructed. I can't really think of a way to really use them effectively meta-wise.
Really?
Yeah.
Charging through all the free barrier?
Well, that in itself is really cool, but I find his stats really low.
Yeah, I'm giving thumbs up to Sealed, and I'm the attack values because my dice rolls never seem to get along with me.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me too.
Do have to go a little bit down on this. Although keywords could change it for me. I know Thunderbolts has a good selection of characters. Heroes for Hire, as a team ability, could also, getting more attack rolls could mitigate the low attack value on him. And in the early part, the first 3 clicks where he doesn't really have much going for him, or first 2 clicks, sorry, where he doesn't really have much going for him with powers, popping that token off to get the extra attack could come in handy. All right. So next up, we move to Luke Cage's wife, Jewel, or Jessica Jones, depending on how you look at it. So she has 2 point values. So she comes in at either 60 or 25. So we actually have 4 ways to give this character a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Her first 3 clicks are give her a special power gives her super strength. When she uses an object during a close combat attack and hits, you may place the targeted character in a square adjacent to Jewel after actions resolve. Now, that can work with such things as giant reach, if in constructed, if something to consider, as well as any single square in a positioning can go a long way.
Huge.
Yeah, and then the last 2 clicks, she has a special damage power that gives her outwit and stealth, but that also makes up her entire 25-point dial. And those last 2 clicks also have Earthbound neutralized, so she doesn't fly on the last 2 clicks because of Earthbound neutralized, but outwit and stealth. So start at the 60-point dial. Mike, what do you think? 60 points, sealed, constructed? Yep.
I like both.
Because thumbs up for both. Yeah, because she can really pull off some tricks.
He's very flexible for 60 points.
Yeah. Now the 25-point dial. What do you think for sealed, constructed?
I still think it's good. I would be less likely to use it, but I still think it's very good.
Okay. Tom, 60-point dial, sealed, constructed.
Sealed is definitely a thumbs up. Constructed is a thumb kind of halfway to down. It is good, but I just feel like I would rather spend a few more points to get somebody who can survive, or a few fewer points to just have the one-trick pony that can pull off their trick and die. She's in a weird zone between them for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And the 25-point dial?
Considering the Avengers TA is still in place, then she's a thumbs up for both.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I'm going to say 60-point in sealed, thumbs down myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tom said, there's 60 points. There's better ways to spend it in Age of Ultron right now. As far as constructed goes, it takes a lot of work to make this ability work. But if you can pull it off, and you have a kill box ready right behind her, it'll pay off.
Well, that's why I went thumbs up for that particular side as well. I'm noticing in Age of Ultron, there's so little movement attack. It's hard to get around pinch points. And so having her rush in and smack a guy and then move them behind her, I think is amazing.
Absolutely. And as for the 25-point dial, in both sealed and constructed, I'm going to give her a thumbs up. We have our new Black Panther, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mike, I don't know if you're familiar with the figure, but back in Infinity Challenge, there was a 27-point Black Panther whose sole purpose of existence was to use his Avengers team ability and stealth to outwit the crap out of people.
And she's back, and she's got willpower.
Yeah, my education continues.
All right. So now we switch over to the previews we got today. We got 2 of them from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we're going to start with Contessa Valentina and all her clothing.
How does that even stale?
I don't know. This doesn't look functional.
Bride of Nick Fury with the...
Yeah, exactly.
Bride of Nick Fury. So she got 2 traits. Changing the world, superior espionage. Opposing characters adjacent to 2 or more friendly characters with the S.H.I.E.L.D. keyword cannot use willpower or outwit. Now, at first that seems like a lot of work, but S.H.I.E.L.D. guys are probably going to become plentiful and cheap in this set, I'm sure. Setting the table for betrayal. Contessa Valentina can use Mastermind, but only to transfer damage to a character with the Hydra or S.H.I.E.L.D. keyword. When she does, add a traitor token to this card and then roll a d6 that can't be re-rolled, and add 1 for each rated trader token. On a result of 8 or higher, you may replace this character with a Madam Hydra character, which is the next one we're going to look at. Otherwise, it's a colorful dial, no special colors, or sorry, no special symbols on the dial. So let's start with Tom. What do you think of Contessa Valentina as a whole?
This is just a thumb rating.
Yeah,
it's a thumb down for me. I don't know what exactly I am worried about using Mastermind to keep alive here. Like, she's just not contributing enough for me to care. With that low range and no movement attack, she's in stealth. She has to get close. She won't be able to. She doesn't have willpower. She'll be an okay soldier, but I don't like her.
Mike?
Shield, I would give her a thumbs up because there is going to be a lot of shields. Yeah. So probably going to be able to nerf other people pretty sufficiently. But overall, I think she's kind of a bag of crap.
Don't tell us, Mike. How do you really feel? Yeah, personally, I like. Even though I'm probably going to build a ton of shield spy teams, whatever. This isn't a character that really pops for me. And I mean, in a world with precision strike, how often are you going to get used at Mastermind?
Yeah,
I mean, even this character has precision strike for 3 clicks. That Iron Fist we just looked at doesn't have a single click without precision strike. So. Yeah, I don't see where she's really going to excel and use that in the current game. No. So I overall, and even in a sealed environment, if I pull a ton of shield, yeah, I'll use her. If not, then forget it. So yeah. Next, we go to her transformation, Madam Hydra. She comes in at 100 points. She's an assassin, Hydra, shield, and spy. Now that's a lot of keywords that leave a lot open for the set, from the understanding. Hydra's reach is never ending is the first trait. When Madam Hydra takes damage from an attack, after actions resolve, you may choose one character adjacent to the attacker and deal them 1 penetrating damage and give them an action token. Beauty with a black heart. Madam Hydra heals 1 damage each time another friendly character shares a keyword with her is KO'd. Ooh, that's like her own little Fantastic 14 ability in there. White attack power. She can use poison. When she uses poison, she deals penetrating damage to characters with the shield keyword. That's very specific. Although there's a lot of characters with shield keyword nowadays. Madam Hydra can use Outwit and Shape Change. Opposing characters within range and line of fire that use Outwit or Perplex must be given a power action instead of a free action to do it. Mike, I'll let you take it away first here. What do you use for Madam Hydra?
If it was sealed and I pulled both of them, then yeah. I don't know. I'd have to see what's in the set, really, because so I'm kind of like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole thing about her is she needs to be based with somebody. She's kind of a meat shield, in a way. And so, are there going to be a lot of charged characters, or is there going to be a lot of range? I guess because she's stealth, then it does require people to go next to her to do damage in a lot of cases. But I don't know. I'm not that convinced. I do love the Hydra team ability.
Yeah.
But constructed, no.
Tom?
Yeah, also constructed, no. The sculpt looks gorgeous. If it looks like that in hand, I will be very excited because it looks.
I think we're gonna have a lot of broken pieces.
Maybe, but I mean, I think it's a beautiful sculpt, and so I'll be happy to put it on the shelf. But with the dial, I'll be happy to leave it there. The one trait is too easy to ignore, and healing damage whenever a friendly character is KO'd. I mean, the old logic that says, anything that requires your teammates to be dying in order to provide you any benefit is probably not the top of your list of things you need to have. I don't find much that engages me with her. Again, I don't know what to say. I don't like her very much.
It's kind of like relying on the Mystics team ability.
Exactly. The Mystics is a great example, but at least Mystics can sometimes be applied to greater benefit in specific applications. I think in her case, I don't know why she's the one who's much like the other version of her. I don't know what I'm so worried about keeping her around for. If other people on my team are dying, I can only assume that I'm just doing badly in any way. But if I have Madam Hydra on my team, I already assume I'm doing badly. So.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I'm not going to give this character a thumbs up, even knowing full well the characters. I mean, fun games, I'll play her Hydra on my Hydra teams, But coming to a tournament with the expectation of winning, she's not going to be a character who's going to show up on a team that.
I mean, you show up at tournaments with the expectation of winning?
Expectation is a strong word for it.
Sorry, with the
expectations lead to resentment.
In the attempt or the desire.
With the intent.
Desire,
Yes.
the general life goal.
Yeah. All right. So, watch list is the next topic we get to talk about. It's done. It's over. Finally.
It took a long time, eh?
It did. It took about 6 weeks. Amber told me this morning or this afternoon when I found out about it.
Yes.
So, let's just get to it. I'm gonna bring my face so that I can contort it properly and read it out to you guys as we go. So we're gonna start first with Felix Faust. So he's got a number of his powers have been changed, but actually before we get into Felix Faust, there's a specific ruling that's been added to the rule book of changes, and that's in regards to probability control, and it's an overarching rule. Probability control may only be used on rolls that utilize D6s. Now, why is that important? Well, that actually takes care of the Faust and Doctor Strange re-rolling their dice roll thing. But that also goes back in time and says now Impossible Man can't re-roll his D20, and Resurrection Man can't re-roll his D20. So, I think there was a time where you were allowed to re-roll Resurrection Man's D20.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's just not a thing for probability control anymore.
That was really high on my list.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about the effects of it overall, but Rocket Raccoon may still be an option in this case because Rocket Raccoon I don't think specifies that. I'm going to pull him up quickly right now just to be absolutely sure that I'm not talking out about Keister. Once per turn, Rocket Raccoon is within range and line of fire of a character for which a roll is made. You may ignore the roll and have it re-roll. So Rocket Raccoon will still work with the D20s.
Because it's not a problem. Yeah,
that's right. That is not prob. much like how a lot of times where even though something describes the same rules as an attack roll, it's not an attack roll. Like support or what's another one? Attacking the power battery isn't necessarily an attack. It's actually just described the
dedicated action.
That's right. So, next up, he's got several powers. I don't know which foot or whatever they're attached to. If you have the Felix Faust card, you'll be able to see them on there. So his powers: Seek the Books of Magic, Green Bell of Uthul, Wheel of Nyarlath, Red Jar of Caliphos, Project Thaumaton, and the Mystical Those ones all have one major change, and it is that the requirement of opposing characters has to be within 7 squares of Felix Faust now, as opposed to just in general. Now, of course, the overarching issue of that is Felix Faust is no longer sitting in the starting area, not allowing your actions anymore. Felix Faust is now required to get into a position where he can affect your team. And then, of course, we have Mystical Trap. Give Felix Faust a power action. Choose one. Now, this is how it reads currently. Not like after the errata, not necessarily the way it was before. Give Felix Faust a power action. Choose one opposing character within 8 squares, the mystical keyword, and one other opposing character within 8 squares. Place a special mystical trap marker in a square occupied by each chosen character. Even if this power is lost, while a character occupies a square with a special mystical trap marker, that character can't move from that square. When a character who occupies a square with a special mystical trap marker takes damage from an attack, or all opposing characters occupy mystical trap markers, remove the special mystical trap marker. So what that does as an overarching thing is it no longer leaves a single character who's affected by the mystical trap on his own to not be allowed to move while your opponent just sits there and waits for time to be called while you're trapped. So overall, the D20 can't be re-rolled. A lot of his lockdown powers, 4 or 5 of his hard locks, are now require him to be within 7 squares, and the mystical trap no longer just ends the game for you to suffer through. So let's go around. Let's start with Mike. Mike, what do you think happens to Felix Faust now?
I think it's a significant nerf. I still think he's useful. The reduction in range is good for everybody else. He's not really a character that I've really wanted, or a figure that I've really wanted to play with. I just thought, seeing it really soured me, pre-nerf with how broken he was. I was really surprised he didn't make it, like he made it through playtesting and actually became a real thing. But they have sufficiently, I think, nerfed him at this point. It'd be interesting to see how well he plays. Against my previous competitive team, I don't think he would be an issue at all. The mystical trap change, I think, is great because it means that if he's facing a one-man army, a true one-man army, it's not just game over for them because he can't do it to them, right? If it's one figure on the board on your opponent's team, then it just doesn't work. So, and if you've got two over there and you're trying to, and there's two magical traps, well, it doesn't really work. You can't lock down the entire team at this point. I think it's a significant nerf, and it leads me to believe that they're really promoting Tenty one-man army variety as well. This example mixed with two of the later examples that we'll bring up with the two power batteries, as well as some other things.
Cool.
Yeah. Tom, how do you feel Felix Faust sits in the game?
I think that it's great. I think they made the right choices. I think that when we talked about it on the podcast here once before, one of the points I was trying to argue, I think it was true, but who knows, maybe I was just thinking it, was that whatever changes they made to Faust, knowing that these were definitely the major target points that needed to be addressed, was that you can only do this, you can only do this, etc. I was really hoping that he was going to come through the errata with the intention of the power more or less in place, but some kind of restriction put on it to limit how broken it was. I mean, there was talk of the idea of maybe making it so that they can't do ranged attacks, but they do everything else. They can't do close combat, but they can do everything else. And while something like that is an elegant solution, it does go, it's actually the complete opposite to the intention of the power. And I was kind of hoping that they would leave the powers with their intentions in place. Because I'd like to be able to think that if we're going to keep this piece in the game and use the pieces as they've been, more or less as they've been created, the watch list is just there to rein in excess, not to completely change the idea behind what is happening. So for that reason alone, I like the fact that they kept those powers as they were, but placed the limitation that you had to get in close, and it will only affect you if Felix Faust is actually in the fight. I'm a little surprised that the power dampener token thing went through without a change, but I think when you take the inability to re-roll the d20 into account, it's generally much harder to abuse any given power on Faust. So all in all, I think it brings him into line pretty well, and I hope that the Rock lifts their ban on him, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think one of the big points for me on this one is, one, the guilt of owning and wanting to play Felix Faust is gone. Mm-hmm. At least in a tournament that isn't competitive. If he was still the way he was in a Nationals or Worlds that had shown up, I'm going to be the first guy that puts him on my team. I don't care what anybody says. He would have been great, and he would have been required to beat. So it would have been either him or Copycat on my team.
Right.
That said, I see why they didn't touch the energy dampener tokens as far as what his abilities do, because the energy dampener is less of a hard lock. If you get it, there's nothing stopping you from taking a non-free action to get rid of that energy dampener token. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to get Felix Faust within 7 squares of your team, and he wants to try to get the hard locks on you, and he's there, he's not that hard to hit with a simple perplex up my range and take a ranged combat action to shoot him. So he's in the range, he's ready to, or he's in a position where he's going to get hurt, which is why I don't think the energy dampener is it needed that big of a problem. I just think the energy dampener, in conjunction with the way the powers were originally worded, is a thing. Now, that said, I'm glad that the mystical trap, and I'm not a fan of hard locks. I don't like when a game turns around and says I'm not allowed to play, and I don't like using said strategies myself either. It's kind of an irksome thing. I guess Blue really turned me off of Magic for a while. Yeah. For the 3 guys that play Magic and watch our show. But in a nutshell, just the idea of not letting my opponent play, I don't feel like I really won. I felt like I showed up so that my opponent couldn't.
Yeah. I think it should also be noted that even with all these restrictions in place, those powers that restrict the type of action you can take within 7 squares still represent 5 powers out of 20 sides of dice. And of course, you've got the any to be able to choose it. Even without re-rolling, that's still a 30% chance you're going to land on some kind of lockdown, which is decent enough odds that, you know, by that token, it's going to happen basically once every 3 turns, roughly. And so it's still enough of an issue that it's not like they've completely nerfed the power. It's still quite functional. It's simply reined in to a level that doesn't seem quite so bananas.
Yeah, a character like a Kyle Rayner or a Banshee will be able to stay out of that very safely for the most part, which is it goes towards them as well. If they happen to pull something that says you can only take power actions, I think it was one of them. Well, then I can TK a guy out of that bubble and then take a not-so-power action from the outside in. So, in a nutshell, he's playable. He's just now worth 80 points. The next one on the list, on the watch list here, very simple. Doctor Strange, the only change is that the D20 can't be re-rolled with probability control. It's a minor thing, and Doctor Strange his powers are more offensive, more gameplay oriented or defensively oriented, as opposed to Felix Faust, who just said, "Hey, you can't play." Right? I mean, they share the energy dampener, they share the 3 movement ability, and they share the red power that sends everybody back to starting area. But that's about all the similarities that they share.
Doctor Strange is just more fun.
He is.
Yeah.
He feels balanced.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to be talking about a Doctor Strange that I played against this past weekend in my tournament. Doctor Strange is the fun version of Felix Faust, where I get to play. Now, the next one's another big wordy one, and that is the Scarlet Witch. Now, originally, Scarlet Witch had the Hex tokens. You put them on a character, and then you modify the dice roll that's coming at you in the attack. Now it reads in full, once per turn after an action roll has been determined, Scarlet Witch may give the attacker up to 3 Hex magic tokens if the attacker is within range. Now, here's the major change that's in red. A character may not be given Hex magic tokens if they would have more than 3 Hex magic tokens on their card. For each token she gives the attacker, reduce the attack total by 1. Opposing characters may be given a free action to remove a Hex token and modify any character's attack value by +1 this turn. So, in a nutshell, this means that you can't turn around and shut down what would be normally a one-man army with the use of the Hex tokens. You now have to mitigate, the fact that once you give them there, you've now put yourself at the point where your opponent can, like if it took all 3, they got 3 chances to get +1 to their attack. So you really, at this point, you're not just giving 3, you're giving just the 1, the 2, or whatever, right? And it's in the hopes that the opponent, it's not as constantly effective, to say the least. You're not going to have a character with 20 Hex magic tokens at the end of the game that couldn't get a single shot in. What do you think, Mike?
I think she's a lot harder to use. I don't know whether she's going to be as useful in the meta anymore. I misunderstood the nerf actually initially, and thought that that means that you'd still get -3 to the attack after that first attack until those tokens are removed. When in fact it means that the -1 per token given is when it's given, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, after that first attack, it's like, well, I can't. On the next, I just can wait out a turn as the person who's receiving them, and then attack with my full values. In fact, I can attack with +1 because somebody will remove 1, or I think it's up to +3 if you've got 3 other guys removing tokens from you in that particular case, and effectively, you're basically killing yourself by using that in some instances.
Yep. Tom?
I must admit I don't love it. I like it from the perspective that it brings the character into balance. I agree. It definitely makes her far less of a broken piece that basically was negating one attack per turn. I mean, that's kind of how it used to be. In order to do that now, then it's either got to be that she's negating attacks on different people, or, of course, it can be that the degree to which she's negating them isn't always throwing 3 magic tokens on, right? If it doesn't take 3 to get the job done, then don't give 3. So there's a degree of balance. If there's multiple attackers, then obviously there's lots of tokens to be going around. And if your opponent is removing the tokens to get the boost to their attack value, then it's opening up the opportunity to put more on. All of that having been said, I think that the way that a lot of times I find, at least in the game, since there is so much tentpole stuff going on, or so much 2-man army stuff going on, her previous functionality really hammered down on 1 attack per turn, and often you've only got 1 really viable attacker and 2 viable attackers. Now it almost goes completely in the other direction. If you've only got a big-time tentpole or 2-man army, then once the hex tokens are there, just leave them there, and she's functionally useless. I think it was just overdone. I think they've weakened her up a little bit too much, and the only thing that's really missing was some other way for hex tokens to erode off, other than your opponent having to actually take them off. And that way she could continue being useful. If there was some kind of thing whereby whenever a character clears, remove a hex token from that character, or something that allowed the hex tokens to go away, other than the onus being on your opponent to use them to their advantage. Sometimes it's very much to your advantage not to use them at all. Leave them right where they are, and the Scarlet Witch's hands are completely tied. I just think they overdid it. Overdoing is better than underdoing it, because it does mean that she's not going to be the extreme force that she might otherwise be in the metagame. But I think that there's a bit of a missed opportunity, because now I find it very hard to imagine her being used other than in very niche-y sort of teams.
Well, I feel bad for the guy who shows up at the next rock event with her and misinterprets that nerf in the same way that I did, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
well, they should have been listening to this show.
Yeah.
Metal Lab makes your team better. One other thing I do want to add about this, if you look at a lot of the teams that relied on the Scarlet Witch, they didn't effectively use a counterattack. A lot of them were just stall-out teams that, slow poked you or slow rolled you. Mm-hmm. She's still useful, and she can still take, sometimes it just needs 1 attack to be stopped, and then you can turn around and just hammer on a character who's now been exposed by that.
Yep.
I think that's a major part of the changes. That it's not she changed in functionality, but what that means is the teams that play her have to functionally work around that now. You can't play the same teams with her, but she's still usable to a certain degree. I mean, and let's not forget, she also still has Psychic Blast. So
yeah, she's a decent character.
The thought of using a character...
You don't have to give them the 3 tokens at a time. It's up to 3, right?
Right, yeah. You
could give one at a time if you wanted to, if you found it more functional.
Yeah. Like, if they just hit, you give them 1 token. If they hit by 1 over, then you give them 2 tokens, right? It's only when they hit with 2 or more, or 2... if they hit with 2 greater, that 3 tokens is really the necessity.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of players are already playing it that way. It's just now that the tokens are there, if let's say they hit by right on, and then you give them the 1 the next time, but they hit by 2 over the next time, well, then you're stuck taking a hit because you can't give them 3 tokens.
It does make her a nice little counter Alpha Strike piece to a certain extent. Yes. It depends on the Alpha Strike, but any team that is heavily dependent upon a big Alpha Strike that comes with 1 attack, then she's certainly as a great counter for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had teams that are able to resort to an Alpha Strike in order, if it's a team that can't handle that, but she can still stop that Alpha Strike, given that she's within the right ranges, etc.
Yeah.
So overall, it's a different change, I think, overall.
I really enjoyed pulse waving her before, and I think I'm going to enjoy pulse waving her now.
That hasn't changed.
Pulse Wave, the answer to the end all to be all to all our Heroclix arguments. Yeah, well, I'm going to Pulse Wave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but Pulse Wave.
I'm gonna get that tattooed on my arm.
That is too much commitment.
No, like right along here, so I could be like this, and someone's like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and attack you. Yeah, but Pulse Wave. There you go.
All right, so Orange Power Battery was on there. Guess what they changed? Nothing. Sinestro Core Battery's on there. Guess what they changed? Nothing. But we kind of agreed that it didn't really need that much of a change.
It didn't really need it. There's ways around it.
Yeah, I had one major. Well, I mean, Pulse Wave we were just talking about, right?
Hey.
But I had one major suggestion for it, that they could flip it to a +2 defense instead of the -2 attack. Overall, it's still manageable.
Well, there is one difference with the Orange Battery now too, and it's that map thing.
Yeah, which is what I was actually about to mention, is that the Orange Battery, when it comes to improve movement, you can still stop your opponent's improved movement, except in specific cases when the map itself is giving that improved movement. So as an example, the Fear Itself Pacific Ocean, the Trinity War Atlantis, the War of Light space map, the Avengers vs. X-Men Surface of the Moon. The Orange Battery has no effect on the improved movement given by those maps. Yep.
That is so.
I mean, I would have liked them to say, hey, you have to possess the power in order to make it so you can't use the power, but...
I do think that is a bit much, though. The average team in the modern meta, I think, at this point, has an entity on a character and has a resource and has a trait and has a number of special powers, and in all cases, they are giving you powers and additional things, so that if it was restricted to just you must possess the power, it would hugely cut off what the Orange Lantern Battery can do. Now, that might have been an appropriate move if the Orange Lantern Battery were really tearing it up, but demonstrably speaking, the Orange Battery didn't win Worlds, nor was it second place at Worlds. It didn't win Canadian Nationals, and it didn't win U.S. Nationals. And if you look at all the states and provincial rocks, it had a presence. It won ours, but it certainly isn't setting them all on fire. I mean, I think, Mike, you said you thought there were 4 of them maybe in the states and provincials, and whatever
I can't remember exactly.
Whatever the actual number is, it wasn't even enough for it to seem like an overwhelming majority. It was just, it had a representation. Lots of things had a representation. So, demonstrably, it's not killing the metagame as much as we'd like to suggest maybe it is.
Right.
Yeah, as you were saying, it's already showing that it is balanced within that. You look at the 49 different states and provinces, and there were no identical teams.
Yeah.
That demonstrates a balance to me.
Now, that being said, there weren't Scarlet Witches on every team either, and they still made a change to her. The mere fact that it's not killing the meta is not in and of itself evidence of the fact that it needs to be changed. It can be. Felix Faust is a great example. But I don't think anything they could have done to the Orange Lantern would either have seemed like too much or unimportant. I kind of wish that there had been some kind of exception made for improved movement, but other than that, I'm fine with no change.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add there, Mike? Or?
No, I mean, I guess I agree with Tom with the improved movement, improved anything really. I think that if they were going to make a change to the Orange Battery, it would be, and I've exploited this myself many times. You can't affect the little dude or the little thingy. You can't affect improvements. Period.
Just don't point to your crotch and say it can't affect the little dude.
The little thingy. But in fact, it's a man who's running.
I think mine got the PIM particles and it's giant size now.
Or very small.
Overall, the fact that I no longer have to feel guilty about playing Felix Faust, I can get back to work on my secret society of supervillains teams.
Yeah, Turtle.
Yeah. Okay, no, he's still a dick, and I hate him. Either side of the board, I would never feel happy about playing a turtle.
Really? I love playing turtle.
Remind me about Turtle when we're talking about our weekly games.
Yeah, there's a story there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get to our weekly games, let's talk Nightwing. So last week, if you check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/marriedwithchicks,
Married with Chicks.
Married with Clicks.
It's a farming show.
We all managed to build an Agent 37 team. We put links to this video and pictures in one of the galleries for it. And the pictures, of course, all include our personal builds of Agent 37. So in continuing with this month's bag of Dick Graysons.
Suck a bag of Graysons.
Suck it, nerd.
We're moving on to his one of the other counterparts in the pack, and that is Nightwing. Nightwing, I'm going to pull up right now from HC Realms, one of our sponsors, I might have. Plug. Maybe code married on their shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Married with Clicks.
Married with Chicks.
All right. Is this the right one? I hope this is the right one. This looks like the right one. Bam! Nightwing. All right.
Nice.
So Nightwing has a special movement power. Or sorry, he's got a trait. Once per game, give Nightwing a free action to place a Tony Zuko.
Hey.
Bystander token, adjacent square, as included with this card. Tony Zuko is not much to look at, but that special power gives him perplex and support.
Mm-hmm.
Something to point out. It's very awesome. Now, Nightwing himself, Batman Family, Batman Incorporated, Bloodhaven, Detective, Martial Artist, and Police keywords.
Popo.
Batman Incorporated would have been nice had Batman not been cycled out in the new modern age. He's got improved movement, ignores elevated, ignores hindering. He's got the trait that brings out Tony Zuko. He's got a special movement power that gives him charge and flurry. And Nightwing can target opposing characters with close combat attacks regardless of elevation. So similar in way to leap and climb. So you can get a guy who's sitting on top of a roof and shooting at you. He's got a special movement power. He's also indomitable, worth mentioning. He's the Second City Saint. Nightwing can use combat reflexes and defend. When Nightwing is the target of a ranged combat attack, he can use super senses. He comes with a Batman team ability, 100 points, 6 range, and 2 targets. Overall, he's very similar to another Nightwing that existed, but he's a little bit more streamlined, a little bit cooler, if you ask me, as far as the character is concerned. And since I happen to be on my HC Realms page and have my team up in the window there,
Nice.
we'll start with my build. So I went with Nightwing, of course, to start, and Tony Zuko is just listed there. Now, I did a little bit of pre-planning for the future if I was to play this team because I didn't get a chance to use this team necessarily. And I decided I would put the new Jewel on there, the 25-point version, to give me even more outwit on top of this team because Nightwing doesn't necessarily start with it. And I kind of wanted to roll with the detective keyword because it would be a little predictable if I rolled with the police keyword. And then keeping it the detective keyword, another favorite of mine, the flash set question. Another 100 points on a character. Detective, mystical, Trinity of Sin. Question can use toughness and is a wild card. The question can copy any uncopyable team from the detective or Trinity of Sin keyword. Gives them Batman team ability in a nutshell when necessary, or from Jewel, the Avengers team ability when early positioning. And of course, he's got his cool gas power for poison and precision strike. I kind of wanted to go with him and Nightwing eventually getting up there to brawl, throw fists, if you will. Also, I want to point out that if you guys have read ahead, my constructs are actually interchangeable because I just realized one might be a different point value than I thought it was. Anyway, but I also went with the Riddler, not the Prime one, but rather the main set rare. He's got his perplex regardless of range and line of fire, targeting opposing characters, leaving enemy characters kind of exposed with lower defenses, lower attacks when I need them, doing less damage if I feel like that's the necessary step to take. Now, I decided to go with the power battery this time because I only had a few points. I think I had 20 points left over on my team. And I decided to go with the White Lantern power battery because the two main attackers on this character's team on their last clicks also have regen. And what it means is that the single-use regen, if I'm somehow double tokened, I don't lose access to regeneration should these guys almost die. Mm-hmm. I actually have it there in case I'm stuck in a position where I'm pushed out or something like that. Now, constructs for this I went with were the sniper rifle and the decoy. And one of the other thoughts I really considered as well was the emotional spectrum on the White Lantern power battery, which allows you emotional spectrum. If it's all white, give a friendly core member a power action and heal all other characters within 6 squares in line of fire of 1 damage. So I've got progressive healing throughout the game as well, which could work in a pinch. One click in this game can be a difference maker. So that was kind of the route I went personally. I haven't had a chance to test this personally, but this is like what kind of came off the top of my head. And I'm sure you guys have started to realize by now. I start with the keywords and go from there because for some reason I'm still attached to making a theme team because I like to get a maximum number of bonuses as I possibly can, and I don't feel that the MDs are a necessity for that myself on that one. Mike.
Tom, can you pull up mine? It's in one of the windows there. You can share it through Google Hangouts.
I don't know how computers work.
So I built from the keyword police in this particular case. I guess I took a page from the book of Jason.
How do I share through Hangouts?
And I mean, I made this thing fairly quickly. We actually got to play it a couple times tonight, me and Tom, and it did fairly well. My first game, it did not do very well versus his decrepit Hulk team. But it's based around the idea of benefiting from elevation because Nightwing he ignores elevation for movement as well as hindering terrain, and so I chose the map Ryut because I had +3 to my bonus anyway because I was playing with Nightwing with Tony Zuko, Rocket Raccoon, the super rare, and the last one was Banshee from Deadpool. And so, if you guys don't know, the other 2 characters, they both ignore elevation for line of fire. So you can essentially hide around corners and things like that in an outdoor map and just annihilate people. In this case, Ryut was used just because it's tons and tons of elevations. I can carry one of the 2 walkers around, generally Rocket Raccoon, because he doesn't ignore elevation for movement, with Banshee. And then they just go to town, just firing at people from far away, usually, except if they're using the Indigo battery, Tom.
I wonder what that's like.
Yeah, so he has it on the screen.
Can you see Can you see the screenshot there?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Can you pull it up? Yeah. Make it the primary.
Yeah, it's there.
Oh, okay, I can't see it. Anyway, I'll click it on my screen. So I have not used the power plant. I know how it works. I've seen how it works. But I hadn't had the true joy of using it before this evening, really. I own one, but I only have about 5 or 6 rings. And so, not having all the rings didn't stop me from using all the rings. We just made believe and pretended.
The joy of home games.
So, yeah, it's not a full power plant in this particular case. I used a disintegration beam for obvious reasons. If and where possible, destroying a power battery is the true joy of my life.
It is a wonderful feeling.
It is an amazing thing. I managed to do it once. It is an amazing thing.
on the roll that killed me anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Impact beam, incredible thing to use with Rocket Raccoon. Using Force Blast, but also increasing the damage by 1 and it's penetrating.
With the energy explosion.
So nasty. So basically you're hitting the guy in the middle, spraying everybody out from the sides, and it's penetrating. It's just nutty. The black light ring, let's see here. Yeah, Smoke Cloud is a free action. That was generally on Nightwing, just to be able to use his stealth, and a little bit of, I guess, tie up for people as well. The Electroblast ring, good for any of the ranged attackers. Like even Nightwing has range on him, even though he's a charged flurry character. Fantastic ring. The Flame Blast ring, which in this particular, let's see here. Can you click on that?
Mm-hmm.
Flame Blast.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Penetrating Psychic Blast. I mean, so good. Adding a range value of 4 for anybody who doesn't have range, and Energy Explosion as well. I generally use this one to burn, but I could see how it would be very useful as well for Energy Explosion plus Penetrating Psychic Blast.
In a different, I guess you were up against a different team.
Yeah. And then Ice Blast, Barrier Incapacitate, always good to have a barrier. Tom convinced me actually after I was going away from this ring, and he's like, no, this is good to have at any given time. Let's just use this and burn it if you need to.
Incap is always.
A lot of the time it would be, I'd equip a ring, then I'd burn a ring, then I'd attack. I mean, it's pretty straightforward in that way. The one downside of the power plant is it's defensively useless.
Yeah, that's a doubt. That's a
with the barrier here, but essentially on dial, defensively useless.
Yeah.
So it really relies on your ability to maneuver around people and not get targeted, essentially.
Yeah. If I was to make one suggestion on it, maybe even replace the Ice Blast with the Vortex Beam, with the idea of TKing Nightwing out in the midst of things to charge Flurry.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something I learned very quickly with the power plant. Because I was limited on my police team to pretty much the same number of rings that you had, because if you actually do out the math, your characters work out the same math. The only difference is that instead of Cerise and the police captain, you have Nightwing, which makes up the points on both of them. So,
yeah. Well, it worked out pretty well, man. I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah. And the love of the impact beam, I can feel that. I can feel that love.
If you want to talk about it for another 1 minute, I will build my team over on the screen as well, so that I can walk you through it.
And so, Jason, now all you have to do is get me an impact beam.
Somebody's going to have to tell me how to add things on realms, though.
Okay. When you go through the characters here, you have the characters have a little green plus next to them. That adds them to your team.
Yeah, in the list of the characters themselves, it'll have a little plus beside it.
Oh, I see. Got it. Great. Will do.
You can actually clear my list if you want to.
I'm doing that as we speak.
Okay, cool.
Everything but the Nightwing, of course, right? Because you know your team's going to have Nightwing.
Yeah, no doubt. So just give me a moment, and I will have a team to show you.
This exercise, this whole idea actually was suggested by Mike a couple weeks back. And one of the common questions we had in the comments below, or in the comments on our Facebook, is how do you use this monthly OP kit character in a game? And it's never a thing we came into the show thinking about, because we always had previews to talk about or other tournaments to discuss. And when Mike came up with this idea, it's like, hey, we can already answer this question for all you guys that you come in with, and it gives us that practice of team building, because sometimes theory crafting some ideas it works to see how a figure can work. You can see some ideas, and you try to exit your comfort zone in a little bit, as you saw Mike did with his version of a team that would come out of my twisted mind.
And it's cool. Also, it's a cool exercise. Well, Mike, you just but you started to use a new resource for the first time as it related to building this team. Like you never really looked at the power plant before, and so it's cool when that type of thing can happen.
I found it really easy to use, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like that resource in particular. Some of the other ones are a little bit more complex, I think. But this is what you get kind of resource. I guess the real question is, which rings are you going to burn, because then you lose their abilities altogether.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to that, it's always based on the matchup. I found when I was using it as well, what do you need at the time and what can go at that point, right? Which is the Vortex Beam was always the first one to go about mid-game, because at that point I'm there. Mid-game I'm already in the middle of the board doing the fighting with my team. But it looks like Tom's got his team up and ready to go.
Yep.
So here we go, Tom. Take us through. Whoa.
Yeah.
I can get behind this.
All right. So we have Nightwing, of course. We know what Nightwing does. And Nightwing, he wants to be in close as much as he can be. He does have a little bit of range. It's short range. He has no move and attack for range. And the super senses help to keep him safe. The Batman ally helps to keep him stealthy, but he really wants to get in and charge and flurry you as much as he possibly can with some perplex help and so forth. So my first thought was to try to use him. I wanted to use him with the Indigo Battery for two reasons. One is that it helped to make sure you could get in close. The other one is as soon as I see support now, I've just been trained to want somebody to have Proselyte on the Proselyte special power that gives +2 to the 2d6 roll when using support, and allows you to use support when you're adjacent to opposing characters, and gives you +2 to the healing you get from support. It's brokenly good when you were talking about using support, which we are, and Tony Zuko is that support wherever he goes. So the idea was use the Indigo Tribe to force them into close fighting and have somebody with Proselyte ready to go to do the special healing when they need it. And that was Magneto. I went with the Prime Magneto from Wolverine and the X-Men at 90 points. You don't see it here on the screen. It says he starts on click 1, but he actually starts on click either 4 or 5. And that means that he's on Proselyte on one of the clicks that has that special power for super. It's actually click 5, and gets the power for super fancy healing. So there's Magneto. He can carry up to 6 characters, which means he's carrying my whole team. Even if I bring Tony Zuko out, he's still bringing them out because he has Proselyte on an Indigo Battery team and he's getting +1 to all his values. His values are already pretty decent, as well as that awesome power where when he's in the top elevation, he gets +1 attack and damage when shooting people below him, which is awesome. And he's carrying the whole team up. Ideally, the Indigo Battery is keeping you safe while you do. And when you do get in close, Murmur, one of my favorite pieces for close combat. Calculator can borrow the either X-Men for more healing, or on the way up, Batman ally to keep you stealthy wherever you land. And once he gets in close, he's okay to start with, and of course plasticity's great. He ignores poison, so he's fine to be up close against a poisoner. And then if he's next to somebody that can use Outwit, Perplex, or Prob, and most can, then he can flurry and get +2 attack. And with his blades, he's amazing. So I had very few points left for the battery. Thankfully, the Indigo is a cheap one. So I brought along the decoy for probably Nightwing, just so that when he got up close, then he could use the shape change. We've got the mallet, which I would at this point be putting onto Murmur, just so that if he doesn't happen to be getting flurry and all the other bonuses, he can still hurt everyone who's around. And the bulldozer with Magneto allows you to be blasting opponents away as basically Nightwing and Murmur come in to get the job done, and then Magneto sends them flying. And it was just rinse, repeat, and when necessary, super support with Tony. That's all there is to it.
Now, I want to point out Tom's awesome superpower. And that superpower is the ability to remind me that I own characters that are really awesome and I've never really made use of. Specifically, that Prime Magneto.
Yeah.
I remember trading my butt off for him, and I totally forgot that I had him, and there he is in my face on a team that Tom has built. And he does it regularly.
Well, Tom also doesn't have him, so if you ever wanted to play him, then Jason would get the opportunity to do what he does so well: lend me things to play with.
We'll call him the library.
The reminder. I do have this thing where sometimes my blinders are on, and I've been comfortable using X things, and it's a weakness of mine. And I'm sure the next couple teams that I build to be really good are probably going to involve the power plant, because I had that problem with the Book of Skulls. Every team I built had to be around the Book of Skulls, which is why next week when we do Robin is probably going to be assigned to the Rock of Eternity, right?
Nice.
Yeah, on all of our teams.
Fancy.
Actually, if anybody uses the Rock of Eternity for that, specifically on that Robin, they're fired.
I don't know what I'm going to do with that Robin.
I honestly haven't taken a deep look at them, so I'm kind of excited to. You know what? It's not going to be a build a team around the Robin in this case. It's going to be a build a team that includes the Robin, I think, because he comes in at 75, and it's just 75. Eh? I thought he had
just 75.
Yeah. So
I should also mention on my team that everybody except Magneto gets support from the Indigo Battery anyway. And, of course, Proselyte's there to make that support amazing. So it's not just Tony. They can all use support if they need it.
Yeah. But Tony's the free guy that has support, right?
Yeah. Free perplex is always nice.
He's not expected to be in the thick of it.
Yeah, and with 2 people up there charging and flurrying, then that perplex can go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this week in games, Mike, let's you already started with the story involving Turtle.
Okay.
So let's start with me angry, and then I can smile.
This past Wednesday at Wizards Cash, I judged a Swarmy McSwarm tournament, and so the build was 450 points, and all of your characters had to be below 80 points or below, and no possession, no BFCs, no feats except on pre-carded, etc.
Golden.
But I said that resources were okay, and relics, and so there were 9 players who showed up, so I ended up playing in the tournament as well, which was really fun. I brought a really crappy initiative team that I didn't plan out very well. Didn't do all that well, going 1 and 2. But some of the commonalities amongst the teams, there was a lot of turtle. There were 3 turtles.
Wow.
There were 3 Rainbow Raiders. Oh, sorry, 2 turtles and 3 Rainbow Raiders. And that was really annoying. And one of the teams had, well, Turtle and Rainbow Raider and a Green Battery. And that really, really was annoying. Really, really annoying. I made an initiative team with 3 Scarlet Spiders, what was it, Justice, the 70-point version of the Hood, and a couple ID cards, you know? Like that, just simple, no... Well, there's theme probs, and that's about it. Very little move and attack. Just trying to lay low and know that my karma has been stretched thin at this point anyway, with the copious amount of winning that I went through more recently. But people brought their A games. The guy who ended up winning it broke theme. I think that in the future I would have, in that kind of a build scenario, I would have said theme is necessary. It's required, just so that the heart of that build would have been maintained a little bit better. But I think overall people played really well, had some fun doing it, and the fact that we got 9 players out to a very, very casual tournament with a bag of dicks, of course, Dick Grayson, that is, was a lot of fun, and generally would be considered a success. That's the only tournament that I made it out to. Oh no, wait a minute. I think I went to You
went to 401.
Did I go to 401?
Yeah, that was all prop
Age of Ultron, month 2 at 401. I went 3-0 and came 3rd because of points.
I love high turnout events, eh?
Yeah, it's so good. And got a Graviton or second one anyway. And it was a lot of fun. I had a really fun team actually. I pulled 2 packs. One of them was a rare pack with some good prob in it, and then the other one was I can't remember what the other figures were, but there was a Goliath in it. It looked surprisingly small because it was Machine Man on top of the I'd heard of this, but it had never happened to me before. So I looked at the pack, and it's like, well, do you keep it or do you give it away? Well, I don't need anything that's in there because I already have all those figures, so I figured I'd pull another one. I pulled another rare pack, and ended up with, it's so funny, I traded for the Wasp ID card and received it from a friend of mine, and then I pulled 2 more Wasp ID cards in that tournament. I was like, oh my god. So we were allowed to use some of the external stuff. We were allowed to use the Hank Pym ID card, some of those figures, and any of the month 1 stuff that we got through from the OP kit, essentially, for Age of Ultron. So I ended up playing. I didn't play the resource, but I did play the Iron Man ID card with an Iron Man that I pulled that night because I didn't have the Fast Forces one with me, and I played Wasp on the side as well with the ID card. But my main force was I had 3 probs and 4 theme probs playing Avengers, and that was 75-point She-Hulk, my favorite character in this set, pretty much so far. She's just so good. Along with, who did I have? I had Alexis, amazing also.
Protector and Hank Pym.
Yeah, Protector and Hank Pym. That's right. That's exactly right. And between them, I had enough outwit and 3 probs. Like, how do you get around 3 probs? You don't. With Protector's Defend, that it was a really slow and painful game for the opponents, but I didn't lose. I mean, it was all good for me.
Yep.
That's it.
Cool. Tom, did you play anything this week?
Not to speak of. I did play in that same Age of Ultron. It did not go so well for me. Yeah, big echo.
Right. Mike, I think I'm starting to get an echo from your computer.
You want to maybe turn the volume down?
No, we're good. All right.
Okay.
I think it was isolated.
Okay.
Because Tom's voice is so booming.
That's true.
He has such a booming bass voice.
Manly and powerful.
In fact, I'm not going to lie, one of the speakers is between my legs right now, and it gets me through the show when Tom's on.
Yeah, I understand.
TMI.
I was also at that Age of Ultron. I was kind of disappointed in what I pulled, only because of the fact I've been playing so little Age of Ultron. I was hoping that I would get another ID card, or that I would get a rare, or a super rare, or a chase, or something I didn't have. Instead, I only pulled things I already had, which is a remarkable feat considering I've only gotten 3 boosters of the thing. And I didn't get any ID cards or anything, so I put together a team that I liked. It was Ultron 5 at 120 points, starting out with Stealth. He's got the Masters of Evil TA and so on and so forth. 2 Monica Changs, and a 50-point Ant-Man that could turn into Hank Pym. So they were all stealthy. There was lots of shield to help in various different ways, and I managed to come in last. I lost all of my games and took very few points. I mean, there was definitely bad luck involved. There's also just some bad play. Like I wasn't feeling it, and I admit that I was feeling dejected and playing poorly. The third match, I just walked up next to the Ultron who shuts down adjacent people to outwit. The only reason I moved in the first place was to get into a better position to outwit him. Then I forgot about that and landed next to him and figured it was. I didn't want to ask him to let me take the move back because I'd completed the action, and I kind of live by the idea that it's better not to put the onus on the other player by saying, "Oh, can I just move here instead?" I'll do it when Mike and I play casually at the couch, but I should own up to my mistakes. So in this case, I owned up to my mistakes and just said, "Okay, please KO my team," and he was obliging and did so. So yeah, I played badly, and I kind of pulled badly. My team wasn't terrible. My execution of the team was. So, sometimes you don't do well.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Was that Jimmy?
The last one, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had my share where it's like, yeah, this seems like a good team. Why isn't it? Oh, well, okay, it's dead now. All right.
Yeah.
Did I make any mistakes? Nope. His team was just better.
Yeah, and I'm glad I didn't try to, I don't know, play differently or ask for take backsies. I just don't like that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So myself this week, we played our usual home game. Excuse me. Is that echo coming from me?
It might be.
Yeah. All right. I played my usual home game, and what I ended up using was what I call the Justice League of Trust issues. It's Batman, the Trinity War at 150. It was Animal Man. It was Adam Strange. It was a 200-point Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Captain Cold from the Fast Forces. So it's Justice League, but who are these other two with them, right? Because they all have the Justice League keyword. So it fared fairly well in the table game, and it was a 600-point Golden Age tournament on the weekend tournament. So I was like, yeah, let's see how it does. And it did fairly well, all things considered, against what showed up at the tournament. So round one, I played against a team that consisted of a Grandmaster, the new one,
Nice.
one prize.
Cool.
Who I discovered is probably the most obnoxious thing if half of your team has prob. The runner from the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah. Awesome.
And the gardener from the Trinity War, or from the Infinity Gauntlet OP kit.
That's great.
The team was incredibly frustrating to deal with that probability control, and it basically came down to it was time for me to start pulse waving. Give the Batman pulse wave. Lex Luthor has pulse wave.
Yeah, but pulse wave.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you know what? The heck with this. Yeah, but pulse wave to the team. It helped that he had a lot of attacks that would require a 6 or less in some cases. And he missed them, and I was just like, oh, thank God my probs weren't needed in that case, because I don't have them. And the other thing, too, is his Grandmaster does have probability control, so he'd have to use it, but that would unlock my ability to use probability control, which was across my team, when you consider it was a theme team. So it was a frustrating game that I managed to pull out with the use of the all answer. And that took me to my second game, against the Doctor Strange. I'm okay with the Doctor Strange. He was fine. But the Doctor Strange had Proselyte. And Odin from Fear itself at the full 350-point dial with Parallax. And you'll never guess what battery he had. Astro Core.
Yellow.
So, speaking of yellow, guess what I had in order to even compete.
But
that said, I managed to kill Odin with Luthor and Batman very quickly. But Doctor Strange had already done a lot of damage had gotten done, to say the least. So the game actually came down to Lex Luthor versus Doctor Strange. My Lex Luthor got his sabotage token back and had regeneration. Regenerated back to a position where he had Pulse Wave and Running Shot. But he got the Master Construct ability to show up on his power battery, and he had the special power on Doctor Strange in order to allow him to use Pulse Wave, and he had +3 to everything. So, boom!
Yep, the only winner of that event was Pulse Wave.
That game came down to Pulse Wave. And then in the third round, I played against yet another Sinestro Core battery, this time behind one of the older Anti-Monitor, the one that keeps pushing but doesn't take pushing damage despite the rules of Colossal, Despotellis, and Sinestro with a Sinestro Core battery. Now, Animal Man took out Despotellis easily. I had just about every single power in the background, with the exception of every power that I wanted at a certain specific time, as choosable with my animals. And of course, I'd perplex with Batman on Animal Man. Use Close Combat Expert to up his attack by 2, which is a 13 attack against a 20 defense. And with Prob handy this time, I was able to squish a Despotellis. I did a lot of damage to the Anti-Monitor, but this one has a Pulse Wave that doesn't ignore anything, but does full damage to everything within full range, and heals back for every character that he damages.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that hurt a lot when that popped off on my face.
Is that also the one that lights up?
It's the
don't
skin,
think that was doing it. It was the same model. I know there was 2 at that time. One was a con exclusive. One was the store one. Right. And I believe one of them lit up. I want to say it was the store one.
The store one definitely lit up, because I have it and I light it up every now and again. It makes me very happy.
Yeah, it would make me smile too. But yeah, that was that. I lost that one too. But again, it came down to I was throwing every single Pulse Wave that I could at him, because I couldn't outwit him. I couldn't perplex him apparently. But at one point he tried to support, and guess what that character is immune to? He is immune to support as well. Thank you, old Colossal rules.
Yep.
Almost every single Colossal was not allowed to be supported, or exploit weakness, or psychic blasted, or. What I've learned from this is Adam Strange is one of the most fun con exclusives ever created. And that Zeta Beam power, I was using it on his first click. I don't care what anybody says. Even though it's like an obvious starter click, the next click he has is a stop click. So if you're in a risk of taking 1 damage, now I've got 18 defense and energy shield you have to deal with.
Yeah.
There's a couple of games I probably could have played it smarter, but I was playing a little foolishly at times just because, and throwing him way out there and hoping that he would come back. And oftentimes he'd be out there and he'd stay out there, and then he'd come back. So I had a ton of fun with the character. I love it. Animal Man is good times. And the animal keyword is so varied. I'm not sure about the modern selections, but if you go golden with it, every power is available to you. You just have to choose the right characters. As far as modern is concerned, I have to do a little bit more work on researching it. I just kind of pull up all the animals that are available, but there's quite a bit of coverage as far as that keyword is concerned. Yeah. So it sounds like we all had a lot of fun this week. So we now move into the question period.
Questions and answers.
So guys, if you have any questions that you want us to answer, throw them down below. I'm pointing at the comment section.
Yes,
for sure.
I keep doing this, and I try to come up with a new excuse or joke for it every time, but I'm pretty sure I'm just pointing at it at this point.
I think that's what you're doing.
You know, it happens when the monthly OP kid is a bag of dicks.
Oh, whoa, hi-oh.
All right, so starting with our Facebook.
Yep.
We actually got a few questions on the first shot, and the first one comes from he's got his So Matt Greatunis, I got it. He provided us with pronunciation this time.
Nice. He's learning.
With the errata clarifications, do you see anything changing in the meta? Well, I think we've all agreed that it's no longer Faust and friends for every single team, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that Faust will still have a presence. It just won't be either he's on your team or he's what you're building again.
Right. Yeah, it's now going to be, I have Faust on my team because I've included X elements to use him.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Other than that, we might see a little bit less of the Scarlet Witch.
I think we're going to see a lot less of the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if the question is will it have much of an impact on the meta, I don't think it will have a huge one other than Faust. Because Scarlet Witch isn't already extremely widely used. She has a place, and her place will get a little smaller, but the overall impact won't be that great, considering the things that are really all over the place are the resources, because there are so few of them per unit teams, and since neither one of them changed, I would imagine the larger meta, notwithstanding Faust, we'll probably keep on keeping on. That's what I have to say about it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anything you want to add, Mike?
I agree.
Okay, cool. Matt also asks, do you guys prefer tactics or no tactics? Mike?
Column A, column B. That's why they're in 6-month intervals. I like both. I think, before we go on the dump, I think that no tactics is better for newcomers because it's easier to learn how to play. But the transition into tactics is very hard, and you end up losing some people along the way, unfortunately. But I think that they both have their place. I really enjoyed the Rock in Windsor that we went to, where it was no tactics, and I think that was my first taste outside of nationals of actually playing at that level of competition. It's really fun.
Cool. Tom?
It's funny because I think that tactics is now the best it's ever been in terms of the amount of variety there is and the number of different types of teams that we're seeing coming out. There's never been a better time for variety in tactics. I would still answer the question no tactics, though, because I do prefer just playing with the figures that are there and what they've got on them. If they would just adjust it so that you can still use bystander tokens, then to me would be the perfect format. Also, they do the no tactics. The Rock did the no tactics where they also said no entity possession, which I think was the right choice. So my all-time favorite would be no tactics, no entities, and bystanders are okay. And to me, that would be the perfect format. But in general, my preference is no tactics.
Yeah. Myself, I come in phases. Right now, I'm in the midst of tactics burnout. I like to try new things as often as I possibly can. So Tactics just kind of... I find that the tactics, it's cool, but then I always find myself... I used to be, can I squeeze this resource into my team back when it was Infinity Gauntlet and Bat Belt.
Mm-hmm.
Now I look at it and say, all right, start with a power battery or start with something else and build around it or build a team that works for it. Because I find the batteries all work for specific teams, and the power plant works best with your snipery, glass cannony teams, teams that are purely offensive. And everything kind of has a place, except for Pandora's Box and Rock of Eternity and the Round Table anymore.
Yeah.
But once all those resources are gone, I'll be looking forward to a metagame that includes no batteries and working around those other resources in spite of their limitations and slight weaknesses.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm at the point right now though where I'm really looking forward to No Tactics season. I've come up with some ideas, including some ideas that include that the Con Loki that I'm really excited to give a shot with. So,
I'm excited to try out some Black Swan teams.
Yeah. You're going to be my hero if you pull that off in a major tournament. You know that, right?
It only needs to happen once.
Just don't put an entity on it ever again.
That's not tactics, my friend. I can't.
All right. Next up, Chris Stockhouse asks, or more or less states, I've been tinkering with a Warstar Justin team. Warstar just moves up and down the board at his own pleasure. I've been testing with Jocasta and a 5-shard Phoenix Force on Warstar. I was curious what you thought and if you had any suggestions. Somebody made a noise. Somebody make a noise that was awesome.
I made a noise because I think Warstar is phenomenal.
He is.
It's only the fact that he can be outwitted that in any way creates a degree of balance. But it's when Beni is attached to him, then he can't be. So if you're willing to keep Beni on him, you can't do anything about that wall of invincible.
Yep.
And he's so very good. And he was saying using it with Justin, which is awesome. And Justin does the other thing about Warstar that is so great is to be able to heal him back. I think it's really a great idea. It may have a hard time getting all the damage out you want to, because you are still reliant on charging in. I mean, it's charging in with an attack to deal 7 damage with your ultra heavy is not a damage problem. But he can still be isolated. He can be pulse waved. It's hard to make him a pure alpha strike, even with the Justin there, because there's so many other alpha strikes that are even more efficient. And you've got to watch out for pulse waving against you. But by and large, I think he's really on the right track. A full Phoenix Force, that would give him +2 speed, which is good. And it wouldn't take him too long to get through the dial. He's getting +2 to all his values as of his second KO or his second roll of doubles. So, yeah, I think that's that or something that gives survivability, either just a steel energy. A black lantern setup might be interesting because he really is at his best in close combat anyway, and being able to heal back with through that wall of invincible with a ton of steel energy could be valuable. Otherwise, no, I think he's on the right track. I like it. I also like the fact that. Well, no, that's not true. You just keep Beni on him, and he won't be countered anyway. I was thinking if you want to ever let Beni go and do things that way, you can fall back on the Colossus shard for at least a full dial of invulnerability, if not invincible. But keep Beni on there, usually invincible. It's amazing, and it'll soak all the poison that they want to throw at you.
All right.
And he'll be poisoning, thanks to the Phoenix Force.
Absolutely. Mike?
Oh, he covered it. Great.
Tom was super excited about it and kind of said,
good.
yes,
yeah,
go for it.
With it, man.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
That's one of the things about the no tactics that both scares me and excites me is I'm going to be either using or seeing a lot of combinations that include Justin Seyfried.
That's true.
And
there'll be no Beni and no tactics for sure. So.
Yeah. Well, actually, Beni is technically a bystander, though technically not. Well, no, because he's not a full base. Yeah, he's technically a bystander.
Yeah, he wouldn't be in there.
Yeah. All right. So we all kind of like the idea you're on to, Chris. So
I don't want to face it, but
nobody wants to. I've faced Warstar a couple times now in my life, and it's a situation I don't want to be in ever again.
No.
I don't know. I want to face him. I want to lose because I'm like Goku. I'll get better that way.
You'll lose to Superman, though, right? According to Screw Attack? Oh, the haters will initiate down below now.
I agree with it, though.
It's true. They cover their bases really well on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jeff Bozeman asks, great show, guys. Love catching it live when I can. What are some of the super rares and chases that you'll think be coming out in Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Well, as far as super rares, we've already seen Madam Hydra.
Yep, that's true.
I haven't even...
Baron Blood, isn't he a super rare as well?
Baron Blood is very likely a super rare, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of the old Cap villains will probably be super rares. Invaders will be in the set for sure.
I mean, I'm hoping for a Taro and Human Torch duo.
My guess is that, much like the Captain America set that I think this Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set is going to resemble, they might do something similar where within any given team, S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra, AIM, you'll have the peons as commons and some of the lieutenants as your rares, or your uncommons and your rares, and have the commanders as the super rares. So I'm guessing that a lot of them, we've already seen Madam Hydras there. I would imagine there'll be a Nick Fury at the super rare level. If we get a new MODOK, then it'll be probably there at the super rare level. I don't know what else to expect from the set exactly, but that's my guess. Is a lot of the generals are going to be the super rares.
I really want to play MODOK and Modam together.
That would be nice. And then get Modord. Wasn't it Modord? Was that
That would make me smile.
designed only for roller derby? I think that was Modord. I want that. Mechanical organism designed only for roller derby. It's a Dazzler enemy.
Mike, any thoughts from your end, or you're in agreement with Tom?
Totally agree with Tom.
Okay.
I'll stop
My cat's eating your computer, just so you know.
What's that?
My cat is eating your computer, Tom.
Nom 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 nom. Now, before we kind of wrap up this question, any guesses as far as the chase theme on that one? Tom, take a wild guess. Throw a dart at the wall.
Okay, wild guess would be various different other characters as their either commanders of S.H.I.E.L.D. or members of S.H.I.E.L.D. So Tony Stark as the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., Steve Rogers as the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., etc. That would be my wild guess.
Okay.
That's a neat
Mike?
guess. Come back to me. What's yours?
My guess is LMDs. I'm just throwing it out there because there's been enough LMDs to say, hey, this character's LMD, this character's... Like, why not a Tony Stark, Nick Fury, a Maria Hill, a whatever life model decoy?
That'd be cool.
I'm just... Maybe even a Red Skull LMD. Who just label it all X character LMD. That would be really neat to see. I might be throwing it out, like throwing a dart hard at the wall. I have no information that I'm going off of on that one.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. And hell, the Serpent Society's in that set, so...
Yeah.
That's not the weirdest idea to come out of it.
It could be the ultimate versions of those, all of the, like the main characters, like, Sam Jackson, Nick Fury, and,
That would be cool.
Captain America in his badass state kicking Giant Man's ass for being a dirty drunk.
I would love to see a model of just Captain America beating the crap out of Giant
I would
Man
love to see him pole vaulting into naked Giant Man's chin. That would be amazing. That would be a great Colossal. And a duo.
How about just the many stages of Giant Man getting his butt kicked in the Ultimates? Like the Hulk just grabbing his face and just... Ah!
That would be amazing, yeah. Oh, Cannibal Hulk would be incredible. Cannibal Hulk.
We've already had two great Ultimate Hulks before.
Yep. Hulk kill Freddie Prinze Jr.
Well, they've really modeled Hawkeye now after the Ultimate version of him. Yeah, less so with Black Widow, but really, really Hawkeye. I guess they didn't want to put that, like, purple Wolverine pointy thing on his face.
I don't think that translates very well to a movie.
The butterfly,
Yeah.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Yep. We had another one on Facebook before we move on any further here. When using the orange battery to take away defense powers, you don't have to be attacked first, right? That's correct. You don't have to be attacked.
That's correct.
You just have the power. There's some confusion as to regards to the rules that you have to use a power before using the orange battery. That was in reference to phasing or leap and climb. Those two powers only have improved movement during the period in which you use those powers. So technically, you can't use the orange power battery with those, because unless you're actually acting with those powers, you don't have those improved movements. Whereas where you have like flight or improved movement itself, you can actually stop those powers with the orange battery without any sort of use out of them.
Yeah, but to clarify as well, it would shut down those powers on the opponent's team if you had improved movement already on your team and used it to shut down improved movement in general.
Yeah, that's right. So if you shut down improved movement and then they use phasing, they don't get the improved movement.
It doesn't phase. They didn't do anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Although leap climb, you can still attack elevated positions.
Yes.
Yes. Because that's improved targeting.
I should do a whole episode on parts of powers that people forget about. Like
that's actually not improved targeting for what it's worth.
No, it's not, eh?
No.
It's allowed to make a close combat attack against a character in elevated terrain.
But yeah, that's a good idea actually. The elements of things that people forget, like combat reflexes and charge, ignoring knockback and stuff like that.
Yeah. Or Force Blast allowing you to do knockback in addition to its Force Blast effect.
Mm-hmm.
That's something people often forget. When
I don't know how you forget that. It's the best power. Well, it's not the best power, but it's a great power.
It's not probability control, Tom.
It's not pulse wave. Yeah, but pulse wave.
Not precision strike.
Yeah, but pulse wave.
Yeah, but pulse wave.
That would be a good theme to do sometime.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but...
Yeah. One of these days we should do our own personal top 5 powers, but not this week.
How about how Battle Fury is actually a good power now?
Oh, so good.
It's really good.
It's like, okay, so you can't be carried, you can't take range attacks. Okay, but I ignore shape change, I ignore incapacitate, mind control.
In fact, nowadays I think that people tend to forget the detriments more often than they forget the benefits.
No, I always catch people when they try to carry people with Battle Fury. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, or make a ranged attack.
In fact, that's why people were using the Pseudosauros on Ghost Rider, because they didn't want to get mind controlled by Brother Voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jose Rodriguez adding on to the question. So if I use the orange power battery to take away Perplex, my opponent had a special power to let them use Perplex and Prob. Do they still get to use Perplex even though it's... No. They wouldn't be allowed to use the Perplex portion of that. They could still use the probability portion of that special power. Rules questions all abound right now. Yes. All of a sudden. So now we're moving into the YouTube comments section, guys, if you're watching the show live. Don Prophet asks, how do you guys feel about Rick Jones? And I've been wanting one and just traded for him. I know me and Tom have a soft spot for him.
Yeah, he's great.
He's so wonderful.
The only chase I really wanted from that set.
He's a great ID character too. His inspiration's fantastic.
Yeah. I honestly, either way, Rick Jones is an amazing character. At 75 points for an ID card, he's easy to bring in. Start him on the board, and you actually bring 2 characters to the board. And those tokens are bloody amazing for 0-point attackers to be brought up.
Amazing. Yeah. And the combo, just, push them to kill them, pop out another one, he gets to go right away. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, I came across a story on Reddit that an opponent was facing against, I think it was a team that kind of the gluttony style of my characters take almost no damage and deal Mystics damage to you as punishment. So instead of doing anything with his entire team, he would use all of his actions in a single turn to attack with his Pog, die from the Mystics, attack with the next Pog, die from the Mystics, attack from the next Pog, die from the Mystics, attack with the next Pog. All of his actions in a single turn would be done in order to just continuously...
Awesome.
Awesome.
Such a good anti-Mystics thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things that people, at first glance, like, oh, that's not that great. Well, that's actually an amazing thought as far as countering characters who take only 1 damage at a time.
Yeah, he has 10 range, too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
10 range with Incap or Psychic Blast or something like that?
Psychic Blast.
Well, yeah, Psychic Blast and TK.
Yeah.
He can mind control on his second click.
10, and it's like triple target too, so you can mind control 3 characters.
Well, and if he gets based and he has no action tokens, the whole everybody takes a token.
Yeah. Well, and you generally token to base me anyway, so now you're
ridiculously good for 75 points. Period. He's an 11 attack at under 100. That to me is great anyway.
Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah. So yes.
That's what we think.
Good catch. we all universally love him. We got comments awaiting approval. Didn't a Rock of Eternity win in ROC? I swear to God, if some. Okay, no. We're not discussing this right now. We are not having this discussion. This discussion happened last week, Jose. And there's a lot of speculation in regards to that game that I'm not getting into on our show. So I appreciate you pointing out that the Rocket Fraternity has done things, but there's a breakdown of that somewhere. Somebody commented on our video that brings that into a lot of question. I don't want to take it away from anybody, and I don't want to mention it, but we're not going to have that discussion here. Any good pointers for shield teams? Have range. Actually, no, you already have range because you got shield guides there anyway. You know what? Shield I find is like it's starting to become kind of like the Avengers. You can build a shield team that does whatever you feel like doing. Because there's characters like Hawkeye that have the shield team ability or shield keyword. There's Tony Starks out there that have shield keyword. Some of them even have the shield team ability. I think there's a Red Hulk. The Red Hulk.
There is.
From the Fast Forces had shield, I believe.
I think it's the Fast Forces. Yeah, I can't remember now.
And even the Venom from the Fast Forces had shield. Shield is almost as flexible as the Avengers, if not more so with some of the lower point guys. So, what do you want to build? Build a shield team from there. That'll be my suggestion. Tom.
My only suggestion is remember that when you're playing any team that relies on having people closely clustered together, that you're going to have an answer for energy explosion when they're far away and poison when they're up close. So just keep that in mind, and anything you can do to kind of work against it, whether it's throwing up free barriers so they can't shoot you, or using an orange battery to take those powers away, or having just outwitters somewhere out there to try to cancel it out, or having a
limit their range.
Having a lot of side steps so that maybe they don't have to be clustered together unless they're actually in the process of making the attack, etc., etc., etc. Just think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So shield again. Sorry, Mike. Did you want to add anything to it, or?
That was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the one line I guess what I would add is if there's a common game mechanic that it is very, very weak to, other than Pulse Wave, then you should probably not play that team.
No.
I was also going to say that leadership is probably a good thing to have with you. The shield team ability is awesome when it's bumping up damage, but expending an entire action to just have the functionality of enhancement isn't necessarily always great if you've got a lot of people on your team, and so any opportunity to get more actions is usually valuable.
Yeah. And as far as protecting your shield team, there's often a lot of times a lot of stealth to get around those energy explosions. A lot of those energy explosions have ignore hindering terrain. So keep a Hawkeye handy and an orange battery if you're really afraid of having to play against that. But most of the time you can outrange them in the case of using the shield team ability. Now, I actually made a mistake recently and said it was a free action. It's not even a free action. It's just having a shield guy next to you gives you +1 range.
Yeah, that's how it works with the running shot. So you don't have to take the free action in between.
Yep.
You couldn't do.
And then, add that extra range, throw some power actions beside the guy to increase the damage, to liquefy a character. Shield is one of my favorite team abilities. It's been one of the ones next Shield and Hydra since the get-go. I've always been trying to build teams around. And comments are towards your left, but our right. I don't even know what that means.
I think you probably pointed.
Yeah. Comments down here. Christopher Criley. So Rick Jones TKs out to 10 squares? No, Rick Jones doesn't TK to 10 squares. TK is limited to 8. But he does have a 10 range for his Incapacitate. His Psychic Blast is whatever he's using.
Yeah, all the other things.
All the other things except for TK. Last chance at questions before we start wrapping up.
You can always play him with the telekinetic reach feat.
Feats. Get out of here. Feats. I hated them when they were out, and I still hate them.
First time I ever encountered them was versus Tom.
You encountered battlefield conditions against me the first time.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. That was
Malice.
Really nice.
Malice, just tearing you apart.
Yeah.
All right.
I still beat you.
You did beat me. But I was playing the Beyonder and Mentor. What do you want?
I know. I was playing a really dumb team to bring to that kind of a tournament, too. I got in trouble.
You were playing this super competitive team.
I know. I didn't know at the time. I was like, I just want to try this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to a Golden Age tournament, don't bring Star Sapphire battery with Bizarro and Headpool.
Pre-errata Bizarro at that point.
Yeah, pre-errated, so tons and tons and tons of tokens.
Yeah. All right. So that said, we're gonna start wrapping it up. We'll give you guys a couple extra seconds to ask some questions. I do want to bring some attention to something that we at Married with Clicks have started. We have started a Patreon. What Patreon is kind of think like Kickstarter, but for guys who are already creating content. Where you can, this is 100% optional. This doesn't change anything about the channel except for the potential option of things getting better. We would like some better editing software, possibly some better streaming software. Google Hangouts is wonderful, but I'm sure there's better stuff out there for us to give you this show even, as far as that's concerned. And we have our goals. These will change as we hit them, so keep an eye open for them if you do happen to decide to become what's called a patron in supporting this. And we do have several offers for our fans, if you will, at different goals. So all of our fans who put into our Patreon, they get access to our Patreon update. And what we're doing is we're looking for once a month to have a patron hangout. Ask your questions or address your questions or comments about the show, and let you guys get a vote on my episodes of Metafix throughout the weeks. If you pledge $15 or more, you get a head start on any of our non-live content. So this is live content. Anything that's not live or recorded, we'll give you guys ahead of time before everybody else. $20 per month or more, you get access to our weekly tournament report, and I might include Tom and Mike in this if they want to involve themselves, where all of us talk about the tournaments that we've been in throughout the week. And only our patrons will actually get access to this episode. And if you give... Now, this is where we get into the more extreme, and I didn't tell Mike and Tom about one of these ones, so surprise on them. At $50 or more a month, you actually get to be my team builder for 1 week out of the month. So, of course, 4 guys. We limit that to 4. But if a lot of people are giving us $50 a month, I'll increase the number of games we play each month so that more people can get a week out of it, or a game out of it in the least. But if you offer up $100 or more per month, you will join myself, Tom, and Mike as a member for 1 episode of the Metal Lab. We're opening up to 2 patrons per week. So there'll be 4 weeks in a month, 2 patrons per episode if we get enough people giving us $100 a month. And I went extreme and said if you give us $1,000 a month, you can make a show for Married with Clicks, or tell us what we're going to do for Married with Clicks for a show. If it's a show where I stab Mike in the heart with a Heroclix, I'm going to have to get some waivers signed, but we'll do it.
I will watch that show.
That's the producer level.
Yeah, that's basically the producer level.
I mean, why not Tom?
I was just an example. I don't think anybody wants to stab Tom in his beautiful voice.
All about the redheaded stepchild, isn't it?
It kind of is, Mike. But if you want to check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks to check that out. If you have any other suggestions that ideas that we could include for things to add to that would be fantastic. We're looking to get, if this does pick up, we will be adding physical goals such as action tokens or other such things, depending on how much traction we get with this. Because the more fans we get doing this, the more we can offer you guys, as well as content on the show we can offer you for supporting us on Patreon. As well. Don't forget that we are sponsored by HC Realms. So if you go to hcrealms.com, click on the shop button, or go directly to realmsgaming.com and use the coupon code MARRIED, you will get a 10% discount on your purchase towards a selection of things such as hats, side bags, dice cups, and other such Heroclix accessories, including some of the T-shirts that were made by members of the community. And yeah. That's so realmsgaming.com. Use the coupon code MARRIED. Get yourself 10% off. Support the channel that way if you so desire. So on the way out, Mike, anything you want to say before we go?
This Wednesday we have month 2 of Age of Ultron unofficial. It's a part 2, and we may in fact make it into a 3-booster tournament. So come on down to the Wizard's Cache at Bloor and St. George, right next to the Batashu Museum, underneath Willow Books.
All right. Tom?
As always, grateful to be on the show, and good to be talking clicks. It's a wonderful time to be. It's a wonderful time to be involved in a wonderful hobby.
Yeah, we love you being on the show, Tom. Your voice is a wonderful. Hold on, let me get the speaker out of here. Oh, there we go. That said, thank you guys for watching. Whether you be watching live or whether you be watching through the archive, we appreciate you guys watching the show. And don't forget, guys, practice
makes
your
team better. Have a good night, everybody.
Mate.